Yeah, we're getting back in it.
Back in it, dude. This is great. Back on the gridiron.
Yeah, man.
One of the legend.
One of the best receivers ever, I would say.
Best receiver, like when I was first started watching football.
Yeah.
And he did it for a franchise that was not very good at the time. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. Dom and Chris here, and today we're getting onto the football field. Little bit of action here.
Yeah, we're talking Sterling Sharpe, one of the greatest receivers ever. The only thing that people say is his career was cut a little short. But, I mean, for me, NFL, I don't think it was. So, yeah.
When you consider the average length of careers of most NFL players, what is it, like 3 years?
Yeah, I think it's 3.5.
Yeah, it's like 3.5.
Yeah.
And he had a 7-season span, rookie season till the unfortunate end of his career by no fault of his own, where you could say in the entire NFL, there was no clear-cut number one during his prime wide receivers. Jerry Rice and him were 1A and 1B.
No, exactly.
In my personal opinion, from the film that I've watched, considering the quarterbacks that Sterling Sharpe played with, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. For the first, 3-4 years, he was with just bad quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's just garbage.
And he had some unbelievable numbers. Let's just get right into it.
Let's get right into him. Sterling Sharpe, born April 6, 1965 in Chicago, Illinois, but didn't stay in Chicago for very long.
No. Him and his, I think he grew up with his grandparents, right?
Grew up with his grandparents and his siblings, one of whom is a very famous football player as well. Grew up in Georgia, Glenville, Georgia, with his grandparents and one famous brother that we'll get into later, and was a football star growing up.
I saw this interview, and I normally won't promote other podcasts, but these Sharpe brothers have a podcast called Club Shay Shay.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it, and they were talking about growing up in Georgia on a farm, because it was like a tobacco farm.
And they were poor.
They were dirt
there's
poor,
no other way to put it.
He was talking about you would get 1,000 chickens into a barn and they would give you $1, and they were excited about that. That's not like they were like, oh man, $1. They're like, yes, $1.
And this isn't the 20s,
no.
Like where $1 kind of stretched far. This is like the 60s and 70s, which is. Oof.
The thing is, their home life was such constantly work that, and this is what they said, was when they got to go to football practice, like, I don't know about you, but when I did football practice that one year, I was just like dead that 1 week where they do like I forget what they call it.
Two-a-days.
Two-a-days, yes,
Yeah.
Thank you. And I remember the Sharpe boys were just like, no, like that was like relaxation for us.
That
like,
was a reward.
We weren't out in the hot sun picking tobacco in the summer. Like
that was the cool down.
Yeah, it was the cool down. But like that's the mentality that they took in, was like, wouldn't it be cool to actually play football and not go home and have to work?
Yeah, not to work every day and, work your tail off for $1 for chickens and stuff like that. Yeah.
And picking tobacco, that was something else that is
just labor intensive.
It's so hard. And they were talking about the summers because they couldn't go to school. They didn't have school and they didn't have football. And they were like, that's when it was seriously brutal in Georgia.
The humidity. Oh my gosh.
And they were working from sun up to sundown. Something that Sterling said, he goes, if you're on a farm, it's not like the work ends. You're not like,
no.
In the middle of the day, you're not like, oh man, the work's over, we're going to go get some sodas. It's like, literally, we have to go to sleep to wake up to just do more stuff.
Yeah, you go to sleep basically because you have to.
Yeah.
Like, because there's so much stuff to do. And I mean, you talk about work ethic. What better way to instill work ethic? And like hearing these stories, you're just like that Zoolander quote, child labor laws, they're silly and outdated.
Yeah,
but like, you can tell why these guys rose to become the best in their profession.
Yeah, no, seriously, because both of them really had this work ethic of like, no, football's really not that hard. Or it's not that hard, but like we've lived a harder life while playing football.
Football is a game.
Yeah. So playing football isn't going to be, what it was. So
exactly. And hey, what better way to not have to do that work for the rest of your life? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, you're a kid, you're a teenager, 20s and 30s, your body can handle that. But imagine being 50, 60 years old after an extensive life of that back-breaking work and still having to do it to put food on the table.
For $2 or whatever.
I
Yeah,
know,
it's
that's
brutal.
Insane. But he was a very versatile football player in high school. Like, he played everywhere.
Both sides.
Yeah, running back, quarterback, linebacker, and did basketball and track.
Yep.
And that's kind of the common theme of all of these people we talk about. It's just not one sport. I mean, even Eric Heiden in something like speed skating bicycling and all the other winter sports, that he got to do.
Well, it's a underlining thing that they're athletic, and then on top of that, I feel like the most important thing is their work ethic, because they saw what it was to put in the time to like be a receiver.
Yeah, and Shannon, not Sterling, but he was also a wide receiver up until he joined the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
But Sterling played so well in high school, he got a scholarship to University of South Carolina. And my gosh, was he really good for kind of a middling. I think they were in the ACC. They might have been in the ACC, or they had just moved to the SEC at that time. So,
well, I would say he's the best receiver they've ever had.
Yeah, and they've had some pretty decent ones.
And they've
too.
had some decent ones.
Sidney Rice, Troy Williamson. Troy Williamson just in college, but Sidney Rice had a really good career for them. Alshon Jeffrey, also from South Carolina. Yeah, so I mean, he kind of started this little
path.
Yeah, this path for these guys. Was set school records, obviously, because this was the 80s.
Yeah.
Ford was president, Nixon was in the White House, and FDR was running this country into the ground.
And everything was a run-heavy
Exactly.
offense. Especially, I bet, in this South Carolina SEC, wherever they were, it was definitely not.
In the Faneca and Couch episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
169 catches for almost 2,500 yards and 17 touchdowns. And in his final season, set a single season record with 11 touchdown catches. He's catching a touchdown a game for the Gamecocks. And this is how good he was, and this is how important he was to the program. I need to bring this up. His number 2 was retired while he was still playing. He was still playing.
Well, they understood what a great player he was. And the thing that I think just keeps coming back is he scores so many points. It's a bit ridiculous because
this is a time in football, I'm talking pro and in college, where only Jerry Rice is putting up these touchdown catch numbers. It's insane.
Yeah. But that's why he is such a standout, because it's literally him and Rice, and everybody else isn't even like, they're putting up like half the numbers.
Yeah. I mean, the passing game isn't as evolved as it is. I mean, outside of really any West Coast offense type of team with ball distribution, like, you look at him and he's a perfect size for a wide receiver, even now. 6 foot, about 210 pounds, strong, can run the route, any route on the route tree, and his strength is what I really wanted to go into.
His post catch, so he can break tackles.
He can break tackles, but he can also fight off press man and make space for himself. Excellent hands. He literally checks every box you'd want out of a wide receiver.
No, seriously. And that's the thing, that when you look at this 7-year career, he does not have a period where it's like, he didn't really have a good year that year. It's literally like,
there's no lull.
It's him and Jerry Rice on all 3 statistics, and it's just like they're switching back and forth. Like, this year you got the most TDs. I'll get it next year.
And this is an era where the NFC is loaded at wide receiver. If you look at any of these Pro Bowl rosters, you're just like, dear God. But he leaves South Carolina. One of his former coaches, William Tank Black, who's a famous agent actually now, he picks him to represent him.
Well, I thought this was interesting, where I feel like Tank saw the potential and was just like, I'm going to back this guy.
Hitch my wagon.
Yeah, no, seriously. And he pretty much like made a career of being an agent and like kind of like a manager with these guys coming up. And literally, Sterling was the first guy that he stopped coaching, and he was just like, all right, I want to be on the other side.
Show me the money, Sterling.
Yes.
Show me the money as we go to Scientology land. Oh, wait, that's a different guy. But he was so good in college. I need to point this out. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame, inducted in 2014. Heading into the 88 draft, it's kind of interesting. You would think he'd be the first player picked, but in 1987 in college football, another wide receiver won the Heisman Trophy, and that is future Hall of Famer Tim Brown, who won it at Notre Dame for his receiving and kick and punt return abilities. So both are kind of projected to be top 10 picks, and with the 6th pick, I think they were still Los Angeles Raiders. They took Tim Brown.
Yep.
But with the 7th pick, the Green Bay Packers take Sterling Sharpe, which could have been a death sentence. For those of you who don't know, this was during a period between their last Super Bowl win in January 68 to 1988, I think Green Bay had only made the playoffs twice, and only one of those seasons was a non-strike shortened season. They basically hit the skids as a franchise, and a lot of it had to do with having no competent quarterback play after Bart Starr, with the possible exception of Lynn Dickey in the early to mid 80s. Green Bay was Siberia. It's where you sent any player who was a malcontent or was kind of washed up. It was like basically a signal your career is over.
And you would threaten players with this.
Yeah.
You would be like, you got to get your shit together. We're going to trade you to Green Bay. And they'd be like, all right, I'm going to hit the weight room. I get it.
I will stop complaining.
Yeah, no, seriously, because it's not, and nothing against, the Wisconsin area, but it's not a great place to go. And
the weather is crappy, number one, which you always have to deal with. The fan base at this point is pretty apathetic.
Yeah, it's not like it is now.
It's not like it is now, or not like it was when Lombardi was there, as we talked about in the Horning episode that we have. Go listen to that one. It's a good one. But and it was also, if you don't know, of all the four major professional sports, it is leaps and bounds the smallest as far as population. So you're not going to get kind of those marketing opportunities unless the team is winning. Yeah. And they're not winning, and it's Siberia, for lack of a better, example.
Now, let me say this. Sterling Sharpe actually had a quote where he said Green Bay actually was the best place that he could have gone because there wasn't any other distractions. He would show up, work, go home. And it's such a great comment, especially for this era of guys kind of like,
he wanted to be there.
Yeah, starting to party though, and like the early 90s where it was kind of like flashy and shit. And he literally was just like, I just want to work. I just want to catch balls and make millions of dollars.
You're paying me not to put chickens in a pen.
Yeah, no, seriously.
I will play anywhere for that. And he was like the first marketable star that they had in a while. And his rookie year, he really balls out. 55 catches for 791s and a touchdown. And he
plays all 16 games.
Plays all 16 games because he's tough as nails.
Yep.
And he's doing it with very subpar quarterback play. I mean, you got guys like Blair Keel and, Mike Tomczak probably showed up later to play some game. I mean, it's very bad. But 89 is when they finally shine. And I wanted to bring this up because we had talked about it in our 89 draft episode. They had the second pick in the 89 draft because they were really bad in 88 his rookie year.
Okay.
They took Tony Mandarich, famously.
Yep.
You know who the Detroit Lions picked right after Tony Mandarich with the third pick?
No.
Barry Sanders.
No shit.
Could you imagine if Barry Sanders played on a Packers team with Sterling Sharpe and a quarterback we'll get into later? They would have been the team of the 90s. I don't think the Cowboys would have existed.
No, they literally would have been that would have been a dynasty without a doubt. Like to have Barry Sanders open up the pass game like that, it would be absolutely insane.
Oh, I know. But in 89, they finished, I think, with a 10-6 record. But they missed the playoffs because they finally have some competent quarterback play. They get Don Magic Man Majkowski with that flowing Swayze mullet out there. And this is really the only season of his career, Majkowski, where he stayed healthy.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll get into 92 and what happens to him and how Sharpe improves and basically helps this young quarterback improve. But in 89 is like his breakout season because he leads the NFL with 90 catches, 1,423 yards, 12 touchdowns, and he's the first Packer with 90 catches since Don Hudson was doing it with a leather helmet. Don Hudson that was the record Jerry Rice broke for touchdown passes.
Yeah.
He had 99 in like the 30s and 40s. That's how good Don Hudson was, but that's how long the gap was for Green Bay Packer like dominant receivers.
Well, and then we see that get broken by Jerry Rice, and then the only other person to really break it is Sterling Sharpe. And that was the thing that they were just so above and beyond all the other great receivers in this era, which is kind of crazy to say.
Chris Carter, Herman Moore.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling when you really... Michael Irvin.
Michael Irvin. That's the one that, and this is the thing that if you look at his statistics where you measure it up against guys, he really has these numbers that beat a lot of these guys. And I think it comes back to these, like this, literally his second season, he's battling Jerry Rice for the top receiver spot.
And it's Don Majkowski versus Joe Montana slash
I
Steve
wanted to
Young.
bring that up
Yeah.
too, where, I mean, he never had a quarterback until literally his final 2 seasons. That was,
And even those final 2 is
was
when that
rookie-
quarterback was
rookie, yeah.
He was the old dong slinger.
yeah, no, it's crazy because he was talking with his brother and he was just like, I would have loved to play with John Elway.
Oh God, can you imagine?
It's such a thing where you're just like, yeah, he did all this, not with bad quarterbacks, but with not great quarterbacks. I think that's
with one that was good but kept getting hurt, and
Yep.
one that was barely scratching the surface by the time he retired.
Yeah.
And just crazy. But 1990 doesn't really fall off. Catches 67 balls for over 1,000 yards again, 1,105. He had a career high, though, 16.5 yards per catch.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that was one aspect of his game. He did everything so awesome. He could get deep for you. He could, catch the short stuff. He would always go over the middle.
That was
completely fearless. And none of these defensive backs wanted to tackle him.
Well, they didn't want that clash with him because he was so strong, and you could see him breaking tackles in this open field when he goes over the middle. It's like you were saying, it's literally like an archetype of what you want a receiver to be.
Oh, completely. 91, the franchise kind of bottoms out. Head coach Lindy Infante's fired. Sharpe has a subpar year by his standards, 69 catches for 961 yards and 4 touchdowns. But Majkowski and the rest of the quarterbacks keep getting hurt or playing crappy. And then 2 things happen leading into the 92 season. With Infante fired, they have to hire a new head coach. And they not only hire a new GM in Ron Wolf, who helped build the Oakland Los Angeles Raiders and Tampa Bay Buccaneers into like competent franchises and good franchises. The head coach they hire is former quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator in San Francisco, Mike Holmgren. The other thing they do that offseason is they make a trade with the Atlanta Falcons. Ron Wolf, who wanted to draft the specific quarterback in 1991 when he was with the Jets, missed out on him by 1 pick.
Oh, yeah.
When the Atlanta Falcons took him. He kind of kept that in the back of his mind, thinking, okay, maybe I want to acquire this guy one day. The specific quarterback, though, his first season in Atlanta, got drunk all the time, slacked off at practice, and did a lot of stupid things. He got buried on the depth chart as a third-string quarterback. Atlanta just made the playoffs with the 2 legit-to-quit team. Ron Wolf offers him a first-round pick for Brett Favre.
Which at the time,
Third-string quarterback.
at the time, it was looked at as a horrible trade. It was looked at
Yeah.
as like, why are we like this rookie's not going anywhere? He's actually probably worse than when he came into the NFL. And
He missed the team picture because he was too hungover
Yeah.
in Atlanta.
And looking back on it, it literally makes the Packers the team they are in the 90s. So,
But when he gets to Green Bay, he's not even the starter. He's a second stringer behind Majkowski trying to run this West Coast offense. And they've built this great staff of future NFL head coaches below Holmgren. You have John Gruden, Steve Mariucci.
Yep.
Andy Reid, I think, is there as like an offensive quality control coach.
that's wild.
I know, it's insane. And Gruden was the wide receivers coach. He talks about Sterling Sharpe a lot and how good he was. And then in the second game of the season, Majkowski's leg just gets mangled against the Bengals.
Yep.
They put Favre in, and then with this new offense, this new quarterback, this is when Sterling Sharpe not only explodes, but becomes a household name in the NFL. Because like now you think of the Green Bay Packers as an awesome team with Sterling Sharpe, not just Sterling Sharpe.
Not just, yeah, because literally before it was just him showing that he was a good player. Now you're like, whoa, this is a great team. And he does something that is so ridiculous in this era. Like we keep bringing up how many great receivers are. He has the triple crown
92,
in stats, which I when you look at all these receivers, you're like, how did one receiver not beat him on one category?
How did Chris Carter or Jerry Rice not
Get more
beat him
yards?
in one of these categories?
It's crazy.
And the
how did
team
Rice not get more
improves.
touchdowns? Like
This is what I wanted to bring up, though. They finished 9-7 and missed the playoffs, but they have a winning record.
Yep.
And Sharpe, across the board, he broke Art Monk's NFL single-season catch record with 108 catches. He had 1,461 yards, a career high, 13 touchdowns. That's incredible. That's incredible.
That's the thing that he puts up so many points. I love it.
You're in the red zone, you know where it's going.
Yeah, and they can't stop him. That's the other thing I love is when they're just like, look, we have to double down on Sharpe. We're just like, maybe we should triple down on him. Like,
Yeah, right.
It's ridiculous.
They don't, and that's the thing. At this point, Antonio Freeman's not there. I don't think Robert Brooks has played yet. Another South Carolina wide receiver. But I mean, like,
They don't have a second weapon where they're just like, all right, we need to cover up. They're literally like, it's going to Sharpe.
yeah,
That's it.
crazy. Yeah, it's just insane. 93. He breaks his own record for catches. He's like, oh, okay, I can do that better. 112.
The first player to have consecutive 100-yard receiving seasons, which I think is so ridiculous. Yeah, I love his
But
stats.
I mean, and this isn't now. This isn't
no, it's not pass heavy.
Antonio Brown in. I think he had like 3 or 4 in a row in Pittsburgh when Roethlisberger was in his prime of over 100 catches. Like, you see 100 catches now, you're like, well, they throw it 50 times a game.
I was going to
And
say,
if you're a dominant receiver, yeah, you're going to eat every week. They're still running the ball 50%, 55% of the time in this era.
and there's almost none of the short little gimme passes.
Yeah, there's
so
no
like,
bubble screens or
Yep.
tunnel screens. These are like 5-7 step drops. You beat your man or you find that spot in the zone and
Yeah.
get hammered. 112 catches, 1,274 yards, 11 touchdowns. And in one game on October 24th, 93, 4 touchdowns in a game. First time that happened since Don Hudson. Like, it's ridiculous.
crazy. Yeah.
And then you want to get into the playoff game, the wild card game, how awesome that was?
Yeah.
Okay, so in week 18 of this year, they had 2 bye weeks, oddly enough, in 93. Probably should start doing that now with 17 games.
Yeah,
but,
no shit.
They lose in the Silverdome to the Lions. That was Detroit's last. This is a curse of Bobby
Yep.
Lane. That was their last division title, 1993. There are people who, if they were born the day after that, who have graduated high school, college, and likely completed a doctorate degree that have never seen the Lions win a division championship.
Yep.
Sterling Sharpe is playing injured in this game. They have to go back to the Silverdome for the wild card round to play Detroit because they're the last team in the playoffs. They finished 9-7, the Packers do. Towards the end of the game, Packers are down. Sharpe has had a great game to this point playing hurt. And Brett Favre, this is like the moment Brett Favre was put on the map.
Yep.
And Sterling Sharpe helped him. And we'll go into Favre's comments as to how much he helped him throughout the early stages of his career in Green Bay. Favre rolls left around kind of just past midfield. And you're never supposed to do this, but Favre had a cannon, like for an arm. He looks over as he's scrambling out of the pocket to the opposite side of the field. And Favre's talked about this. He's like, all I see is Sterling streaking down the sidelines because the defense had over pursued. There's nobody near him. And Favre, when he throws it, Sterling Sharpe has talked about this. He's like, God dang it, he overthrew me. But like the incredible arm strength on this pass is amazing. Sharpe just keeps running after the ball down the sideline, and he's the only one there.
Yeah, because everyone switched over.
And he hits him in the back of the end zone. Sharpe makes an incredible catch to keep his feet in bounds, and the Packers win the wild card game. And Sterling Sharpe is the hero of all of this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But you're right. This is the play that put Brett Favre on the map.
Put the Packers on the map. It put Sterling Sharpe even more on the map.
Well, this is what's so ridiculously sad as we get into the next season.
We get into 94, and this
he
is
plays
tragic.
6 games. Right? Is that right?
No. He plays the entirety of 94.
Oh, you're right. He does.
95 is
95. I'm
but
sorry.
The end of 94 is what's the tragic part.
Yes.
So he's even more amazing. He doesn't have 100 catches. He only has 94.
Oh, you're right.
Only 94.
But how many touchdowns?
He had 1,119 yards and 18 touchdowns.
It's absolutely insane.
That's over a touchdown catch a game. I mean, there was a Monday nighter, I think, in 93 where he made this ridiculous catch against Kansas City where you're just like, Jerry who?
Yeah. No, seriously. That was the thing that people were saying was just like, he is, and Jerry, like you said, 1A, 1B. It's hard to, because they kept going back and forth between the best receiver And I feel like this was when he was really hitting his prime, when him and Brett were like getting into that rhythm and like all of it.
You
like,
could tell.
You could tell this 94 season going into 95.
They had Reggie White, Edgar Bennett. They're finally building a team that's good.
Yeah.
And he would have had 100 catches this year because in their last game against the Falcons to put Green Bay in the playoffs, which is a nice little revenge game for Favre, Sharpe tries to make a block in the run game. It looks as the most pedestrian, type of thing for a receiver. He goes, engages with the defensive back, and it didn't look bad.
If you look at it, it really doesn't. And you can tell that it was because I feel like the player on the Falcons was just like, whoa, because he literally he hit him and he like drops. And you can see him like
just drops, and it wasn't a high impact collision.
No.
It was like a block you would make 100 times.
Yeah. Literally 100 times in a practice. Like it's not even, it was so really innocuous that he really hit it, and he hit it just right that he just like absolutely messed something up in his neck.
Yeah, he had suffered a spinal injury, not a paralysis one, but the thing was, it was in the middle of a game. He probably would have got to 100 catches on the season.
Yeah.
But you just thought, oh, he's probably out. He'll be back for the wild card round next week. And he never came back. Sterling Sharpe never came back. And you can go to YouTube and watch this play. He just goes to the sidelines, and you're thinking, like, this dude's tough as nails. Like, what exactly happened? And then you later find out, spinal injury, neck injury.
So and this is the thing, is they were saying if he does get an impact hit to this, he could be paralyzed. They were saying like the way this injury laid out was just like, you should not play football ever again, because now you're really in risk of paralyzing yourself.
It's what it's almost like what happened to the oldest Manning brother.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yeah, you can live a regular life, but if you play football again, you're done.
There's no way.
You're likely going to never walk again or be alive. And that's the most tragic part in regards to his professional career is 95, they're even better. 96, they win a Super Bowl. 97, they're back in a Super Bowl. And up until really 2002, 2003, they're one of the NFC's best teams. And to think they might have more than just one Super Bowl in the Brett Favre era if Sterling Sharpe plays.
Absolutely.
Into his 30s.
Yeah. No.
Into his mid-30s. Good God.
Well, to think about this team, this Packers team who went back-to-back Super Bowls, did it without their best receiver.
Yeah.
Like, literally, they had their best receiver had to retire. And, like, it's such a ridiculous... He was such a great receiver. I want to bring up this statistic. In the last 6 games that he played, he scored 13 touchdowns.
Oh, my God.
So he literally was scoring, like, 2.1 touchdowns a game. And the only person to ever break that record is Jerry Rice with 14 touchdowns in 6 games. This is the only comparison you really have is Jerry Rice.
Well, and it's good because they played in the same era.
In the same era, exactly.
You can
I love
compare
it.
apples to apples, but you also look at who's throwing him the ball too.
Exactly.
And Brett Favre has said this, always gracious about what Sterling Sharpe meant to him in his career. He said, he's Gale Sayers. Like, that short window of productivity, almost very similar to Gale Sayers or even a Terrell Davis, where you're just like, there was nobody better. And you look at all the touchdown catches. How much do you think that meant to Brett Favre? He knew 84 needed the ball.
Yeah.
He knew exactly where the ball was going to go. Like, I mean,
if you put his 7-year stats against any other receivers, any 7 years they have, you can pick and choose. They line up like he's either beating them or they line up like with Rice, with Irvin. Like, they're literally like
Michael Irvin. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's pretty ridiculous in this 7-year span. What an absolutely dominant receiver he is. And this is where we get into one of the bigger travesties, is he is not in the Hall of Fame.
He's not in the Hall. And I want to go over his stats right now.
Yeah, his all-time stats.
This is a 7-year window for a wide receiver in the late 80s, early 90s. 595 catches, 8,134 yards, 65 touchdowns in 7 seasons.
And I have to reiterate this. He literally had Brett Favre for 2 seasons. So, like, it's not,
3.
3. Yeah, sorry. But it's not like he had 4 seasons of, like, really mediocre quarterbacks, and then Brett comes in, and you see him
Young
just
Brett
taking
Favre,
off.
who didn't know what a nickel defense was
Oh,
when
my
he first
God.
got to Green Bay.
Like,
yeah.
and they're like literally taking off. Yeah, it's sad to think that he doesn't have a Super Bowl. He's
Well,
not
he
in
does
the...
have a Super Bowl ring.
Oh, he does? They did?
Well, no. When the Broncos won their first of two, Shannon gave his first Super Bowl ring to his brother, his older brother, which is pretty amazing.
Well, now I want to say the Shannon Sharpe quote, which it rings so true. When Shannon got inducted in the Hall of Fame, he was just like, I'm the only member of my family in the Hall of Fame, and I'm the second best player.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like, just rings so true, because Shannon was a great player, but he had John Elway chucking him the ball. He had Terrell Davis opening up the offense.
An offensive line putting Vaseline on their jerseys and cut blocking.
I can't even imagine. I didn't know the Barry Sanders thing. I can't even imagine what that would have been. But you look at Sterling Sharpe, and it is really not right that he's not in the Hall of Fame.
And I think a lot of it has to do with, after his career, he was never in the limelight. I mean, he was on NFL Primetime and did NFL Live on ESPN for like maybe 5 years after he had finished his career, but he was just never a me guy.
No, he was never a huge, sponsorship guy, that kind of thing. And I feel like another thing that detracts from his getting into the Hall of Fame was he doesn't even watch football anymore.
No.
So he was talking about this. He said after he was done with the NFL Network, after he knew he was never going to coach, he'll watch like a couple of minutes of the Super Bowl, but he literally he's into golf, he's into his family, he's into other stuff that doesn't have to do with football,
which is really cool if you think about it. I mean, he's living his best life. Yes. And I'm sure he's grateful for the life football's provided him, and just a great player, should be in the Hall of Fame. And, on this podcast, we talk about a lot of guys who are just kind of lost.
Yeah.
Who were amazing, but just kind of lost for whatever reason, injury, issues with substance abuse. But it's sad that he's not in the Hall of Fame because he belongs there.
Yep. I mean, if you look at his statistics, and this is my thing we were saying with the longevity, like 7 years is a long time in the NFL. And to be the best receiver, 1-2 receiver, just to have the triple crown.
I know.
It's crazy. Thank you all very much. Sports Experience Podcast, Quinn Comedy on Instagram, Dominic DiTolla on Instagram.
DiTolla Dominic, excuse me.
We always record right here at Engle Studio. Thank you all very much.